Working.
There we go.
There we go. Welcome to the Derry Planning Board meeting for October 2nd, 2024. We start our meetings with a Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd all rise and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we have a couple of housekeeping issues for those in the room. The fire exits, should there be an emergency, is at the rear of the room where you entered, also to my right, to your left, if the alarm activates. And if the alarm activates, the elevators will be inoperable, so if you need assistance, please wait for first responders. You might want to mute your audible devices at this point. For those people in cyberspace, we continue to offer remote participation. So to attend this meeting remotely, you will either visit www.zoom.us using a browser on your computer or smartphone. You'll enter the meeting ID 754-663-912, or you may join by phone for audio only. And one of those numbers is area code 646-558-8656. Again, the meeting ID is the same, 754-663-912. And if you have any problems getting in, call 603-845-5585, which will ring the phone right over in the corner, and we will help you. If you're joining by phone, toggle *6, and that will mute or unmute you once you have been recognized. And *9 will raise a hand requesting to be recognized. So at this point, I would like to introduce the members and staff who are present tonight. To my far right is Ms. Robideau, our planning director.
Good evening.
Ms. Caravello, our planning clerk.
Good evening.
Member Mr. Healy.
Good evening.
Town council liaison Mr. Grenice.
Good evening.
Vice chair Mr. O'Connor.
Good evening.
And to my far left, Mr. Beventure, who we call you the video wizard. What's your real title?
I am the Media Services Coordinator.
He is the Media Services Coordinator, and he does wonderful things. Our engineering department representative, Mr. LaRue.
Good evening.
Alternate, Ms. Lavoie.
Good evening.
Member, Mr. Fishman.
Good evening.
Member, Mr. Feinauer.
Good evening.
Secretary, Mr. Malaby.
Hello.
And I'm Dave Nelson. I'm the chair. At this point, I would like to seat Ms. Lavoie in the absence of Mr. Myers.
Happy to.
Our first item on the agenda is escrow. We have in our package tonight item number 24-28 for JAL LLC, parcel ID 11057, Denali Estates, Phase 4.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the request this evening is to establish a letter of credit drawn on Enterprise Bank in the amount of $1,273,000, $1.2 million for the above noted project. Expiration date will be September 23rd, 2025, and this is for Denali Phase 4.
And I so move, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved by O'Connor, seconded by Malaby to accept the escrow as presented. I will poll the board. Mr. Healy.
Yes.
Mr. Grenice.
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor.
Yes.
Ms. Lavoie.
Yes.
Mr. Fishman.
Yes.
Mr. Feinauer.
Yes.
Mr. Malaby.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. The next item on our agenda is approval of minutes. We have before us the minutes of September 18th, 2024. Has everyone had a chance to review those? And if so, are there any errors or omissions noted?
Seeing nobody rise on that, Mr. Chair, I move to accept them as written.
Second.
Moved by O'Connor, seconded by Malaby to accept as written. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions?
I will. I wasn't there.
Ms. Lavoie abstains. The minutes are approved. Correspondence, I believe, has been delivered. There is no other correspondence this evening. Next item is other business. We have a concept discussion pursuant to zoning ordinance section 165.32.4.20 permitted uses for parcel ID 05053-001 2 Island Pond Road, Stiletto Construction and Builders Reserve.
Okay, thank you. So Builders Reserve and Stiletto Construction are currently located at 2 Island Pond in space that was formerly occupied by Revive Furniture. They are sister companies sharing employees. Builders Reserve was formerly located at Hillside Plaza. 2 Island Pond is located in the West Running Brook District, and the two uses have been deemed to fall under the definition of contractor, which is not a permitted use in the zone. The business owners have applied for a variance, which is scheduled for October 17th. And as part of that process, they need to appear before the planning board for a conceptual discussion so that the planning board's comments can be reviewed by the zoning board. The purpose of the discussion this evening would be for the planning board to discuss the suitability of this particular use on this particular lot and how it affects the character of the district and how it integrates with our town master plan. The majority of the use is internal for showroom, and there is, my understanding, a little bit of outside storage, so I would ask the board to maybe discuss that with the applicant. I believe Crystal Chandonnet is presenting this evening.
So, Ms. Roboto, is this also the former location of the flea market?
This is the flea market lot.
The one that used to have the big pink elephant?
That is the one.
That is the one, thank you.
Hi, I'm Crystal Chandonnet and my husband, Ben Chandonnet, owners of Builders Reserve and Stiletto Construction. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to present other than we are new tenants in the existing structure. We're looking to conduct business for our kitchen and bath showroom, and our subcontractor that installs all those kitchens and baths is Stiletto Construction. They are sister companies, like Elizabeth mentioned, and we did not realize when we signed our 5-year lease that the district did not permit this use in this location. The kitchen and bath showroom was located in the Hillside Plaza, which is also in the West Running Brook District. It had changed name. Some of you might remember Derry Kitchen and Bath or Comfort Kitchens of New Hampshire. It's been there for over 25 years, operating in this district. So our major contention is that we're not introducing a new business type that hasn't already been operating in this district for 25 plus years. And as tenants into Island Pond, we're not altering the lot. We're not removing trees. We're not changing the building's aesthetics. We're internal and just relocating spots.
Okay, thank you for maybe spawning some questions from the board. This is a somewhat unique district in town. The permitted uses is under control of the ZBA granting variances, but most of the other requirements of the district are by conditional use permit granted by the planning board. And if you've read the section of the zoning ordinance that describes the district, what we're looking for in executive summary is a village, walkable, mixed-use kind of environment. And so perhaps you could articulate a little bit about how you're going to have construction office, construction storage, and retail of bathroom fixtures and appliances. Is that correct?
What we've leased is approximately 7,000 square feet within the building. The front building, there's 2 buildings on the lot. The front building is about 15,000 square feet, so we're taking up less than half of it. It will be a showroom that displays cabinetry, countertops, flooring, hardware, and then a large majority of it is going to be just administrative offices for a designer, bookkeeper, et cetera. And that's how we intend to use it internally.
And so what other uses besides the retail showroom and the administrative offices are you going to be conducting on site?
I'm sorry, say that again?
What are the other uses besides the retail showroom and the administrative offices that you will be having take place in the building?
So we'll have a little bit of storage. There'll be, the building currently has a small garage door that we'll use for taking in material deliveries, cabinetry, et cetera. So the construction company won't really be conducting construction activities there because those are conducted off-site on, homeowners' properties. But they will take in materials that the showroom sells to our clients, and the two businesses share personnel. We have one bookkeeper for both businesses, so all of the admin people will be in there. The warehouse usage is about 1,000 square feet, so it'll just be storing, cabinetry boxes temporarily until they move to the client's home.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions from the board? Mr. Grenice?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So you moved from the old location to the new location, so the old location is closed?
The old location, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Los Reyes, the taco place.
Yes.
They are very popular and they wanted to expand. So we did not have a lease renewal offered to us. So we had about 30 days to make a plan and move.
So you're currently operating at the new location?
We are there. We're trying to make sure we're in compliance by being there. So yes, our stuff is there.
Okay. I'm all about small business, so, but I have to ask some other questions.
Yeah.
Outside storage, you're going to store anything outside on the property?
Yeah, so that facility has a lot of space. It's almost 22 acres. A lot of it's paved. We'll have dumpster. We have siding and trim products that would come in through there and have to sit outside because they won't fit inside. So there'll be a small amount of storage outside.
And what about the construction debris from the work you do?
All of that is handled off-site. We have dumpsters and dump trailers that deal with that, and they go right to the dump facility.
Yeah. So you won't be bringing any material, anything back? The only material that would be on site would be any packaging or any material that you get from just having the business there, or anything like packages being delivered, or just like normal trash, I guess.
Normal trash that's inherent to the showroom business would be there, but that fits inside a normal
We already have the
business
roll-off
dumpster.
there. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm just thinking of like, other materials, other
Right.
garbage and
Yeah,
trash.
no, so
because it's kind of in the neighborhood, so.
Yeah, I hear you. So for construction purposes, we take dump waste, job site waste goes directly to the dump facility, and we take that bill and pass along to the client, so it doesn't come back to the showroom.
And if I could add a tiny bit to that respect of it, we've been there for about a month now, and if you guys know the property itself is kind of in disarray. It's a little bit more of a
Right.
mess on the outside. Other tenants or whoever they else are, definitely have a lot more debris and trash than we've already started to clean up that process, clean up around the yard, clean up around, because we want it to be inviting to the clients that we do invite there. So.
Yeah, I remember when Revive Furniture was there, and then they moved to Londonderry.
Yeah.
That place was spotless. They did a ton of,
Yeah.
Rich and
He did.
his wife did a lot of work inside.
did.
And I know that there's tenants in there that the town didn't know about. So I just, so I don't know if they have to go for the zoning board, so I don't know if they're gonna ask for a site plan. Is there any signage going on the building or anything?
I mean, any signage that we had planned to do would be probably right where the revived sign currently still stands, small, so, honestly, we haven't gotten that far.
Okay, no, I'm just curious what you can.
We're by appointment only, we don't do drive-by traffic, so, people know where to find us anyway, that they're coming on purpose.
Oh, so the showroom's not open to the
It
public
is,
then?
it is only by appointment.
Okay, all right. That answers my question about traffic.
Yeah, yes.
you.
Yep.
So, Mr. Grenice, to answer your question about site plan, my understanding is that if they get the variance, then there'll be a change of use application, and the town planning staff will determine whether that rises to the level of a site plan review. Is that correct?
That is correct, and there is a change of use application in process. That's what triggered all of this.
Okay.
Well,
Any other-
the zoning board can make that a condition too, if they wanted to.
They could.
Yeah, okay.
Other questions from anyone on the board?
Yeah, good evening. You mentioned the facility receives cabinetry and other kind of materials, and then it's obviously picked up and brought to your customer's site. Just approximately, what kind of frequency would you normally expect in a given week for trucks coming in and leaving? If you can give an
Same amount of traffic we were having up in the Hillside Plaza, probably 2 tractor trailers per week. And they're there maybe 2 hours, whatever day that is.
Okay, thank you.
The questions?
So just a statement, for what it's worth, when I'm in town, I drive down Island Pond Road and I live below y'all. I didn't even know you were there. So it's pretty quiet.
Yeah.
Any other?
One more question.
Mr. Greenes?
One more. Hours of operation for your appointment only.
Say that again?
The hours of operation for your appointments only?
Well, our staff is there 8:30 to 4:30. Typically, we keep client appointments earlier in the day or in the afternoon, when it's not going to interfere. Right now, it's not at all because, there's work to be done and
Right.
we need to make sure we're approved.
That would
so.
be Monday through Friday or Monday through Saturday?
And
or-
sometimes weekends, if someone couldn't, the designer might open up
Okay.
on the weekend to bring them through.
All right, just good, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else? So, Ms. Rhoda, what consultation and advice are we expected to give to the applicants and through them to the ZBA regarding this
We gotta send,
consultation?
we gotta send a letter to
It would be
CBA.
appropriate for the board to comment on whether you feel that this use is suitable for 2 Island Pond Road, as the lot currently exists. And, the integration with the town master plan, our goals are always to encourage, small business and economic development and growth of our small businesses and also retention. So, we have a business that was, prospering in town who has been able to move to a different location and expand a little bit, and that does meet, in my opinion, does meet one of the goals of the master plan. We're keeping business in town, and it's good business that's serving our residents in the region. If the board agrees with that, it would be, helpful to have that comment in our minutes so that we could share that with the zoning board.
I'll start by saying that the showroom is a retail use, so that is an allowed use. The administrative part, it doesn't list it specifically here, but that's usually, accessory use to the retail. So it's really the construction, staging, storage, and whatnot that would require a specific variance. And if that's not out front and part of the retail facade, I would think that would be a reasonable use of this building in this district.
Agree.
Anyone else have comments?
Can I add anything? Sorry. Currently, the construction company is headquartered at our home office in Hampstead, and we don't need a special exception for that. It doesn't have any traffic, just like, Derry doesn't want additional traffic in certain zones. It's been permitted to be operating at our home for 7 years, so just wanted to add that. It's not a major invasive construction company that has all this debris and traffic and whatever, so just wanted to add that.
Anyone else like to add comments for the record?
So Mr. Chairman, I know I said, I think what Ms. Robideau said I think the zoning board just needs to probably ask the same questions, hours of operation, storage of any trash, just for their record, and storage of outside of material, and, just the cleanliness and the look of that, and also the sign, I don't know if even Revive sign at the time was actually, I don't even think we saw that. I'm not sure.
It wasn't the West Running Brook District
Yeah,
at
so it's
that
different.
point.
So I think with the sign, did I have to come back with the sign?
Yeah, for the West Running Brook District, similar to our traditional business overlay district, any sign proposal before you receive a sign permit needs to be reviewed by the planning board, similar to this discussion. And we actually have one following this discussion where the board will look at it and comment on it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm sure the zoning board will address that too, so I just wanted to put that on the record too, and
Great.
thank you for staying in Derry. Like I said, we want small businesses in Derry. Small business is the backbone of the town, so, thank you for staying in Derry.
So, Mr. Chair, will we be taking a vote on this here to make a recommendation to the zoning?
No, I'm of the guess that we will send individual comments to them. This is a conceptual consultation. We don't actually take votes on those, so
They can read the minutes.
Yep.
We'll provide the minutes to the, we should have those in advance of the meeting, so we'll make sure that that gets included in the zoning board packets for their members.
Great.
If there's no other questions or comments, then I think we've fulfilled our consultative obligation, and we'll close this section of
Can
the
I
meeting.
just ask one question? You were talking about a site review. What would that entail for us as tenants? Like, are you gonna need
Oh,
a
like, well, no, like.
new survey?
If they wanted like a site plan to actually show where everything's located,
Okay,
so it would be like a scaled down site, basically, a site plan, yeah.
Yeah. Like
A lot of times they want to show like the building, exactly like where the parking's gonna be, where the employee's gonna park, where the storage will be, where the dumpster's gonna be, where your snow storage is gonna be.
okay.
That'll be up to the zoning board to, they'll, underneath, whatever they do, they'll have conditions, and that might be one of their conditions. That's why I just brought that up, so you know.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is an administrative review of proposed sign on parcel ID 03110, 140 Rockingham Road, Hyla Brook Estate.
Thank you. So the planning board approved a site plan for the Hyla Brook Barn in September of '22. This is an event center located on Rockingham Road in the general commercial 3 zoning district. As part of the conditions of approval, the board requested administrative review of the proposed sign. So an application has been submitted to code enforcement, and you have a facsimile attached. The sign will be black and white. There will be a smaller placard at the bottom, and that can be switched out to read "closed for private event" or "site visit by appointment only" or similar wording. The owner does plan to have lighting for the sign, which will either be ground lighting directed up, or there might be a little bit of lighting on the top going down that has not been finalized yet. But there will not be, the sign will not be internally lit. So,
Does anyone on the board have questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Grenice?
Always got to make a comment. No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say I'm wicked excited. I remember when we saw this plan coming in '22, in a great location down there, and I've been driving by there, and the building looks phenomenal, and I think the sign looks great. So I think they're here. Hayla Brook is here.
no, she's not here this
Okay,
evening.
but I just want to say publicly that the building's great. I think it's great, and the sign looks great. So I can't wait till they open. So I have no problem with the sign.
Anyone else? If not, what is the board's pleasure?
I recommend that the board move to approve the sign for Hayla Brook Barn.
Moved by
Second.
Grenice, seconded by Malaby to approve the sign as presented. I will pull the board. Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Lavoy?
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
I will abstain. I'm in the abutter.
Okay, great. Mr. Feinauer?
Yes.
And Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Next item on the agenda is planning director updates.
At this time, I really don't have any, other than I'm looking forward to working with the board on some zoning and regulation amendments.
Okay, great. Chairman updates, we really don't have anything other than, yeah, we still have 2 open alternate seats, and I have it on good authority that there's something in the works, so hopefully, cross your fingers, okay?
It's a
Very
fun
good.
board. People should join it. It's a fun board. People should join
It
it.
is fun. So the next item on the agenda is a public hearing for Inner Circle LLC, parcel ID 02149, 57.5 Frost Road, a design review for an 8-lot subdivision. Now, a design review is one step up from a consultation. We do not make any binding decisions. We don't have any votes. We just give advice. The major difference is that abutters are notified for a design review.
And abutters during design review, I believe, are also invited to comment.
Okay. So because it's going to be a public hearing, we will at some point open the public hearing. Do you have a staff report to give us?
I do, actually. So, I will note, Steve Height is available. He's here for the, representing the applicant this evening. So as the chair had said, the state RSAs allow for design review. I want to say that design review does not negate the requirement for the developer to follow our traditional review process, which includes technical review before the application comes to the board for a final subdivision. The applicant owns 57.5 Frost Road, which is located in the LMDR zone, which requires 2-acre minimum lot size and 150 feet of frontage. This parcel is 33.82 acres in size, and the proposal is for an 8-lot subdivision. This property is encumbered with steep slopes, ledge, and wetlands, including a very large prime wetland. Access to the lot is through proposed 91-foot right-of-way off of Frost Road. Although on paper, there is sufficient acreage for 8 lots, the land itself may be unsuitable for a development of that size. The conditions of the land itself will require extensive cuts and fills, and at this time, it's not certain a road can be constructed to meet the town of Derry requirements. Oh, and when you, if I could just pause for a second, as you're opening that for Steve, could you also open this? It's in the public folder. Thank you.
So there's no accepting of jurisdiction because this is just a design review. So at this point, it would be in order to have a motion to open the public hearing.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Moved by O'Connor, seconded by Malamy to open the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Public hearing is open.
Good evening. My name is Steve Height with Civil Works, representing the applicant. So as your planning director just identified, this is a proposed subdivision on a 33-acre parcel right off of Frost Road. And we're here tonight for feedback from the board, give you a little bit of history of what's been happening with the lot. We've been working with the engineering department quite a bit, as well as the abutters to let them know what's being proposed and where we're at with the project. So a couple of months back, quite a number of months back, we got a variance for frontage to allow a single-family house lot on here. There's a septic system design approved it as well, so there was a house being constructed on the property as it is right now. During the course of time, there was some violations associated with the amount of land area that was being impacted, and we're going currently under working with alteration of terrain, DES, right now for an after-the-fact alteration of terrain permit. The site has been reclaimed, has been updated, and erosion control items are in place as well. So this is a continuation of what's occurring out there now, which is a proposal for a subdivision. So there are a number of concerns that we've had conversation with engineering about, and we really just, the sole purpose of tonight is really just have a conversation with the board, engineering if they have additional comments that we haven't heard before as well, and the public, any questions that they have and we might be able to answer, so that as we move forward with an application, we can try to address those in the application and on the drawings as well. I wouldn't like to go through the process and then have these questions coming up when we're going through the public hearing. So I really appreciate the opportunity to have this type of meeting with the board and the public, so we can actually get everything out on the table and know what issues we really need to try to address.
So let me just interject that because this is a design review, we will not necessarily be addressing all technical aspects of the plan should you come back for a formal application that will go through the technical review committee, and depending on complexity, it will probably go to our external consultant, civil engineer, for comments. And so while you have received dialogue with the engineering department and you get some comments from the board, that does not preclude all sorts of other more technical comments that will arise during the formal application process, as long as you're aware.
Absolutely understood. Thank you. Yep. So with that, essentially what we're looking to do is we're proposing a cul-de-sac. It's about 1,200 linear feet to the beginning of the cul-de-sac, a couple hundred feet around the cul-de-sac. We would have 2-acre lots arrayed around that cul-de-sac, 8 of them as proposed right now. They are all appropriately sized relative to the 2-acre minimums, and there would be appropriate stormwater controls as well, being very cognizant of the prime wetland that is on the parcel, which is the lower, in this case, the southerly part of the parcel. If you can go to sheet 2 or 3. Yeah. Do I have control over that, or you? Yep. So this is the existing conditions of the site. Test pits have been done. The prime wetland is the shaded area, lower left-hand side. The proposed access that we're looking at right now is the one on the far right-hand side. The applicant has corresponded with the abutter to the right, as well as the abutter to the left, who I believe is in the audience tonight. And potentially, if easements are required, they've already, one on the right has actually had a documented easement that says we can have access for grading, drainage, erosion control, and everything else on the right, and then on the left as well for drainage. The work that we for stormwater management, actually, big part of that. So this is the existing conditions plan. Next plan. And one more. Just want to get to the proposed layout for subdivision, if you would. It should be sheet 5 of the plan set for where you're at. Yep. So here's the initial proposal as we have it right now. It's the cul-de-sac as you can see it, 1,200 feet to the throat, 300 feet around, about 1,500 feet lineal feet if you as a driving. Lots themselves are right around that. So the circles, of course, are proposed as a well location. The hatched area are the 4,000 K areas for septic. The test pits have been done and locate there, and they meet all the requirements as well. Again, that's just the overview. The shaded area, lower left-hand side, is your prime wetland. There's a 150-foot buffer on that. Did you want to go to the plan that you had shown?
If you don't mind, I did have a couple of other comments on that.
Yep.
If you don't mind, Owen. It's in the planning board public. And it would be the colored sheet. Yeah, that's the one. Okay. So this is my colored version of the plan. I'm trying to outline the constraints on it. The yellow areas are the yellow areas are what I would see as buildable area for these lots. Your prime wetland buffer pretty much takes up 2 lots. There are a lot of land constraints for this subdivision. My concern is that you're going to need to add drainage, you need to add your slope easements. There's a lot of cuts and fills. Mark can speak to those a lot more eloquently than I can. At the end of the day, when we approve lots, we also need to consider the people who will be living on these lots and if they're going to be able to do anything on them. You may have a 2-acre lot, but if 3/4 of it is encumbered, you just have room for a house, and then you don't have room for a shed or a pool or living on your lot without going to the zoning board of adjustment. And we should not be creating lots where, in order to expand on your house or put on an ADU, that you have to go to the ZBA for everything. I have just concerns about the suitability of this particular parcel for this number of lots. And I know that Mark does have some comments as well.
Mr. LaRue?
Would you like to hear them? Obviously, the plan is absent of any new driveway relocations for the existing driveways, proposed driveways, drainage, or comprehensive construction details that we require on the plan. So it's definitely a very conceptual plan. Details, all roads require granite curbing, closed drainage, driveways that meet criteria for slope away from the road and whatnot. And the biggest thing is obviously how you treat drainage, stormwater with detention and protecting it from the wetlands and having those spaces, as Liz states. In my view, based on what we see in subdivisions and the requirements that the AOT puts on these storm systems, is that you're probably going to at least lose one lot, possibly two lots, just for that purpose. In my experience, anyway. There's a really significant wetland impact at the entrance of the proposed roadway. And basically you have two ponds on either side, well, of the existing driveway, but the proposed road is actually going to completely fill in one of the ponds. You can see it on the right-hand side of that entrance. Typically we see box culverts, open box culverts from AOT. That's pretty much a standard on any crossing, even if it's a tiny little brook crossing or has no substantial biological or creature travel way. They're really enforcing that rule now. And when it comes to installing a box culvert, that really puts your project in a real detriment financially. We're building two box culverts on Sunset Ave at this point, and they're each $500,000 a piece. And in order to construct the box culvert, you're going to eliminate access to house number 59 for at least 2 to 3 months. That's what it takes to construct one. There will be no other access to it. Any homes that have occupancy in that lot will not have access at that point. As Liz stated, there are abrupt grade changes in the terrain requiring excessive slopes, especially beyond the limits of a 50-foot right-of-way throughout the design. So if you look at the sheets, I believe it's 6 and 7.
Yep, 6 and 7.
They have all the contours showing all the slope work that's required beyond, and you can see the right-of-way and how the contours go well beyond the right-of-way. Those will be required slope easements. In particular, it's troublesome as the first 300 feet of the driveway, or 400 feet, those two existing homes, their driveways will be non-existent once that slope work would be. And there should be a plan for how to do the new driveways and space them and make sure that they meet our standards accordingly. And as the applicant knows, we do not allow retaining walls for future maintenance. We don't want to own walls in the right-of-way, and that's stipulated in the regulations. If you look at the geometry of the road, you have 3 sag vertical curves and 1 crest curve. Those values are minimums of 30, I believe, for 40 for a sag and 30 for a crest. Basically, a sag is just like it sounds, and the crest is the top of the hill. The K values are important as far as making sure they slope correctly into the transitional grades, And these are way below those thresholds right now, as I believe there's 2 that are below 20. You also have, with the grade issues, 2 separate waivers that would be required for exceeding the maximum street grades of 6%. So you have a lot of transitional points, which makes it very tricky. And typically, we never approve something more than one section because you have to have a flat surface of 4% in either direction, 400 feet per our regulation. The plan also needs to show the horizontal curve radius. I believe it's greater than the 300 feet that we have for a minimum. Existing driveways 57, 59 will be completely wiped out, as we talked about earlier. And then the extensive slope to accommodate the new road will make it nearly impossible for some of the driveways for the proposed lots to stay within the minimum and maximum slope requirements. The other part of this, and I don't like to get into the financial aspects of things, but it's important to note that the applicant should consider that these are really, that we've seen huge rates of inflation on road construction and utility work as of late. And per road costs used to be $400 to $600 a foot. Now we're seeing $1,200 to $1,500 to $1,600 a foot. And a road of this length at $1,200 a foot would be 1.8 million that would be required for escrow, and that does not include a box culvert, which I said earlier was $500,000 for what we're doing in 2 spots in town right now. That's just some of the broader things, but there's some problematic areas as far as trying to achieve all these things, as well as the drainage for the AOT permit, in my estimation.
Thank you. At this point, since it's a public hearing, is there any member of the public who has questions or comments to this design review application? If so, please come forward. So you may use the standing microphone on the tripod there. Give your name and address for the record, please. Yeah, I don't think it's working.
Try. Okay. Suzanne Marciano, 31 Frost Road. So I'm in butter next to 59. And my main concern here is the drainage erosion, because if you see where the little pond circled in blue is, the water comes down the street, from the right under 57.5 and 59 driveway into the pond and then under my driveway. I have a 12-inch culvert into that driveway. And my concern is that all this extra water is going to go under my driveway and potentially, could create problems for me as far as, excuse me, erosion or collapse of my driveway. So I'm very concerned about that. There's already been erosion, and I know this someone said that there's erosion control there now, but I'm not really sure what erosion control there is. I always thought that was the like hay bale, those plastic fencings, and all that kind of stuff. And I don't think there's any of that up there. I know they planted grass as part of that erosion control, but how propose to protect my driveway with this proposed plan? And my concern is initially the project was fastest, so why is it now 8? And every property. I worry about my well. My next door neighbor to the left of me had to drill a new well, and I believe his well is 800 feet deep or more. So if there's all these houses up there, how's that going to impact our wells, and who's going to guarantee that we don't lose water? There's a lot of ledge up there. This is going to have to be blasting probably, and every time you blast, you run a risk of changing the veins. So very concerned about that. Something else, I forget what it was. Those are my 2 main concerns: is the water, and I know you don't want to pour water into hands, I guess, from the top, but it's all going to come down. It already has done that in a bit, excuse me, a bad storm. So, who's going to protect my property from that? And the other thing about the pond was, I heard somewhere that maybe it was like a fire pond. I don't know if that's the case or not, and what exactly does that mean if that's the case? So,
So just to address those questions?
thank you.
Yeah, so for drainage, stormwater mitigation, as Mr. LaRue pointed out, that primary concern, that'd be the design criteria for this whole subdivision in terms of the road designs as well. Road profiles, elevations and so forth, we would have to, if we have to ask for some relief, we would try to make sure we hit 99 or more, whatever we can address, meeting all the requirements. The lot, I think was this parcel was created in the early 80s, subdivided all the lots on the frontage that you see here, and then the residual land that was left out back with 2 access points. So some of those concerns, we would, those are engineering concerns. We'll try to address those as we move our way through, and do the best we can relative to the requirements. In terms of stormwater, that's the paramount issue relative to any site design that we do, whether it's a subdivision or a site design, is what are we going to do for mitigation for stormwater. The crests and sags, some of those are relative to minimums that the town does have. There are also recommendations from ASHTO for traffic that's generated or proposed on a site. The configuration of the lots themselves, this again I think there were 9 an initial review plan that we had was put together and presented. This is down to 8, and some of the concerns relative to drainage may impact the lots themselves. So we haven't got that far yet, and this is really why we're here. I hear the butters' concerns, have these conversations as well. And what Mr. LaRue had identified, he and I have had the conversation as well, and I'm glad he's putting this out here, these conversations, and try to address stormwater pond down the front, whether a box culvert or a culvert of some kind. There is, the way there's an existing drive right there that gets to the first house you see right off the pond, whether that's a box culvert, which is typical what AOT or even Fish and Game would require or request. I'm not quite sure the costs are as high for a residential neighborhood driveway or roadway, but they are extensive, and they do require a lot of engineering associated with it. So we're aware of that. In terms of access to the abutters that live there now, that is, we had talked about that, and there's a way to accommodate that during construction. There wouldn't be, there may be time that they wouldn't have access to their house for a short period of time, but then part of that construction coordination would be make sure that they do have access, not only for themselves, but also for emergency access as well. That's something we
May
work
I
out.
clarify? It looks to me as if the driveway access for the parcel that says 2/149-10 is actually in the right-of-way to the backland. Is that true?
Yeah,
How did that get there?
that's been existing now for 30 years or so.
But is there a legal easement, or has it just been there?
I don't know. That's a good question. They do have access to it, and that's the driveway for their house. It is on the right-of-way that goes to the parcel out back. How they get there, I'm not quite sure, but we can find out.
Well, that's not actually a right-of-way. It's fee simple part of that lot, right?
It is true, yes.
So that homeowner built a driveway on someone else's property, so there's that.
We worked that out already.
Yeah, go ahead.
We worked it out with the homeowner. Mr. Said tonight also. He's gonna have a driveway. When we bring it up, he'll have it be off the road to the left with a turnaround. So he won't be using his old gravel driveway. He'll have the new road goes up. I think at station 50 to 275 is where his driveway access would come into his existing home.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
I guess the answer to that output was incorporate his driveway into the new roadway.
Other comments or questions from public who are here? Well, let's let someone else who hasn't spoken, you can come back for a second bite at the apple later.
Mary Gerard, 73 Frost Road. My concerns are, once again, the well. My well is in the back of my lot, which would be to all this. So we don't have, we're not going to get town water down the end of our road. So that's a major concern for any of us down that end. Also, you're at least putting in 8 properties, you're putting at least 16 more cars on our road. Our road is a small road with curves, and we have people walking on it all times, and on one side, it's all culvert. So there's not really, you're putting an extra 16 cars on the road. And also, we've already, at the end of the road, we've already got the Wyndham Rail Trail. Our road is very busy. It is a cut through for the Wyndham, to get to Wyndham, to get to the 93. So you're adding more activity onto our road, and that's a concern. So that's all my notes. Thank you.
Do you have any comments on that?
Not right now, no. Thank you.
Anyone else in the room who hasn't spoken yet?
My name is Brian Bell. I'm at 58 Frost Road. My property is directly across the road where this road will intersect Frost Road. I also have concern about the water that we will be sharing in the aquifer. I don't know whether there's any studies that will tell us how we should look for an impact of a subdivision on a rural aquifer. I've tried to research that with USGS. I don't see anything or any university publications that would give us some insight, but I have the same concern. My well went dry. We had to put a additional reserve on it, and I think it could easily be impacted by 8 more wells being put into that area. One of the other issues I have is that if I read the regulations correctly, and it's not my job to do that, it's yours, there shouldn't be within that 500-foot section where an 8% slope is approvable by the town, that there has to be 500 feet where there isn't a similar grade. Within 400 feet of that drawing, you've got the grade going back down, which is a 7% slope. So does that square with your understanding of the regulations? Because it seems like it's a very steep slope to me on both sides. And again, I lived there for 25 plus years. So coming down the other side of that slope in wintertime is a challenge, and it's a risk that people who property are going to face in a return. There's a lot of sun that beats down directly on that pavement. So, the town's going to have to really be diligent to keep that pavement cleared and salted to prevent the risk of somebody sliding directly out into Frost Road into the path of oncoming traffic. There appear to be 2 lots, the first 2 on the right, that don't have test pits. I don't know whether that's an essential part of this, but I always understood that before you sited a septic field, you did some digging, either a percolation test or a test pit, and I don't see either of those on those first 2 lots. So I'm not sure how you could know whether you'd place the septic fields that are drawn there in that location.
Let's take a pause. The applicant address those questions and more. Continue.
In terms of testing 4K areas, those aren't septic designs at all. Those are reserve areas. 4K is for subdivision. Test pit, we can do additional test pits for clarifying 4K areas. We identify those on the drawing. We put those together. Plenty of test pits up there that have shown to pass. So each lot would have to have 4K area with test pits that meet the requirement. Those areas that are shown are 4K area reserve areas. Relative to slopes as well, again, that's one of the criteria of your ordinance, trying to make sure that there's a time as you get down off the slopeway. In terms of going from a vertical horizontal to a downslope, that's what vertical curves are for, providing a transition as well. It's similar to construction, subdivision roads. Sometimes you don't have much of an option. You do have, it is what it is relative to the land area and design to that as well, meeting the requirements of the ordinances. Relative to the wells, I don't have a real good answer to that because I know every subdivision that's ever been proposed has, you're putting wells in there. They have a minimum requirement for a potable well, the amount of water that comes out of it. Studies that have been done, there are state information relative to wells in the area as well. Using that word too much, but that would be a conversation we would have with the planning board as well as staff in terms of what information you would want to see for that. Whether it's 8 lots, that's kind of normal. I don't have an answer relative to what would happen to their lots or their wells as they exist today. There's really no way of us knowing that. So it's the best answer I can give you for that.
All right, thank you. Is anyone else in the room would like to comment?
Good evening, Enderby Court. First comment here, that survey map doesn't show the profile of the taps. There's a section on the top left that's not accounted for. If you looked at basically the first slide again, there's about a 200 swath section all along that top edge that's not incorporated in this map. So I'm curious on what happens to that unaccounted. Yeah, see that little bump out on the top left there? That's not accounted for right on the survey map. Move your, down and to the right, right there. That edge right there is not accounted for. It actually cuts into that quite a bit to the right, so I'm not sure what's going on with the survey map there. There's actually several other disconnects about that survey map that don't really line up. So, you know, my question or, you know, homework for you, the board, would be to take the survey map, overlay it to that map, right? And then the discrepancies really pop out at you, right? There's one of the properties I think were cut in half at the bottom there. So things like that don't really make a lot of sense to me. That's comment number one. There was a lot of concerns about the road going in. There's already a house being built there, so I'm curious on, you know, is that because it's just a dirt road and it's not going to be kind of more of a grade road? But, you know, there's already a house being built there, so all these concerns about the road and pitching and stuff like that, does that not apply for the single house that's being built there currently? Also in your notes here, you mentioned there were some police department comments that were attached. I don't see that in the little pamphlet here that was at the back of the room. And my last comment is a general for the board. I would request you guys stop putting pungs in Derry. You know, the occasional tax contributions are like 1/10 of a single family, and the tax and you know, the school board already believes this, right? So please stop approving apartment buildings in Derry. Thank you.
Okay. Any comments to that?
Yeah, the map you see on the cover sheet is from the tax map. Whether that's accurate or not is relative. In my view, it shows you a depiction of who the abutters are. The map that you're looking at right now is prepared by the licensed land surveyor. That's the existing lot of record. So if there's a discrepancy, usually there's an up to the tax maps as part of a subdivision if necessary as well. So I'm not sure that there's an issue there because the abutters are identified, and that's what the tax map is for. It's not for conveyance of who owns what, as it is where you actually reside in town. Also, again, that was the comment I had earlier was, you know, that this is a lot record. Mr. Thomas has a building permit to build that house, and part of that now is on hold relative to completing that house once we the after alteration of terrain permit, which is in process. We've submitted information. We got an RFMI back from the state, and we're just comments, relatively minor, and we hope to get that done pretty quickly, and that would allow the continuation of that house on the lot. So that's really all I have to add at this point. Unless you got something else, Jeff?
Mr. Chair.
Picture that bought this land, I was going in on the first right away on the left-hand side, and there was too much impact on the wetlands, and we had a, that we showed for a conceptual that showed 9 lots, but they didn't want us to come in on the left-hand side, even though it was more of a flatter area. I was pushed to go up to the other side of 57, 59 and go in that way, making the grades difficult and having putting retaining walls up now. So everything I'm doing is not in the town's right of way. All my retaining walls are out of the town's right of way. I got easements from both abutters to go into their setbacks and do what I need to do to finish my subdivision, put the drainage in the road and filter it and do what I need to do. As far as the land 59, next door to our 61, she's got an existing 12-inch culvert. There's a problem with her drainage after the pulling under that. I'm sure we could adjust the engineering and increase her culvert size on the driveway, but as far as getting water conditions going down the road, we're gonna treat it and do it right.
All right. Mr. Provencher, are there anyone raising their hand online?
Seeing none, rise online, Mr.
All right, so we'll go back to the room. You may have a second bite at the apple.
So once again, that's my culvert that we're talking about,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So how would you propose to change my culvert?
Well, we'd have to have a plan drawn up and go through the processes and dig through your driveway and put a new culvert in and not impact.
But that would impact my driveway. And I don't think I would want that, but
Well,
I just, how it would not impact my driveway. You know, the driveway kind of comes down and then goes up, and anytime you dig into a driveway, I mean, to do it a couple of times, it changes the whole, what the driveway is. You're gonna rip out the whole driveway and rip this driveway and put in a culvert. That seems illogical to me, but I don't know. So going back to my question, I guess, to the board is, does any guarantee wells if there's subdivisions next door? I mean, I don't know how that works.
So we had this question come up in another section that was steep and had lots of ledges, people with anecdotal stories about seasonal shortages of water in their wells and whatnot. As I recall, the short answer that can guarantee that, given that it is an underground aquifer and a shared resource, and no one really knows where those veins go.
So what happens to us if, you know, our wells dry up, you know, that question. My other question was utilities. So my understanding that to do the subdivision, you put underground utilities now, correct? So the house that's being built there currently, does that have to have underground utilities?
Well, so the town has its own requirements, as does Eversource, depending on the length of the drop. They may require a pole to be set and the rest of it to be underground. So there may be two entities who are pushing that issue.
So one doesn't adversely affect the other, so if there's a hole and it doesn't get gathered in or something, as far as the other house will have to be underground?
So the planning board envisions if there's an entirely new subdivision, we'd like to see all the utilities underground. And I can't really speak to what Eversource will or won't do. They're a private company. They have their own procedures and policies.
Okay. But once again, if it is going to have to be underground utility, that's going to entail more blasting. I would assume, given the amount of light that's up there. So that's more impact on the walls potentially, and the drainage and the erosion. So, thank you.
Does anyone have any other new items to discuss that haven't been brought up before? Okay, at this point, we'll go to the board for questions. Mr. O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want you to go to sheet 8 of 12, and talks about the blasting needs and best management practices. Again, this is going to be a strong suggestion, so that's once you come back for the actual review. In addition to this, in notes, going to have to be that if somebody has a street, sir, it's typical, I think, with our fire department in that document. But on above that, because the houses are close, is I should set up the thing that they set off at. In those houses, animals want built up top hill. Actually, with my property and all the other neighbors around me, that the ground would literally shake. And we had seismograph like that and everything else. So the movies, they did all the filming of all the basements, all the walls, the foundation. So you had it before and after. So that way you can deal with it. But again, it's quite an in-depth, that's what I was saying before, the best management practices. That will come up again once we...
There's those are the processes we would have to follow. And if there's a threshold, then there is reporting criteria. There is exactly the initial survey, and also during blasting, they would have a process put in place. I'm sure in this case, they'd be notified.
Thank you. And you've finished, Mr.
I have
O'Connor?
none. Thank you.
Anyone else on the board have questions or comments at this point? Mr. Grenice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Curious, so you mentioned that there's a house being built there now, and I'm trying to, where's that house being built?
Excuse me?
On the plan, where's that house being
It's
built?
in, well, if you look at the plan, it's like, actually, they call it lot 2, the second lot on the right-hand side as you go up. I got the construction on that single family with the variant.
Oh, can you bring that plan back up? Nice color, please.
Sheet 5. That one right there.
Right there. And we have certified on file at the town for the foundation location and
Oh,
everything.
it's the second one on the right?
Correct, yes, sir.
So the roads, you already have that road going in then?
There's a rough, all the way to Station 850. We had done pre-blasting last year. We did the surveys and all that stuff, but we started shimming the road so I could get into my lot last year, well, actually 2 years ago. So it's actually Station 850 is where the rough driveway we'd call is in right now.
And you got the permit to build that house?
Yes, sir.
And that was before you decided to put 8 houses there?
Correct.
And you did some clear cutting up there?
Pardon me?
You did some clear cutting too up there, right?
On this lot?
Yes.
We didn't clear cut it, but we cut it.
Oh, yeah, I was looking at the latest
Overview?
satellite view.
Yeah, we took
And it looks
12
I can
acres
see a
out.
road go in, and I didn't know if an abutter did, if you did it, like there's a whole clear cut
Oh,
section.
that's out the Karas who owns the lot behind me. He clear cut his, yeah, pretty much.
Oh, I did the map, the GI map on the town, and mirrored that, and it looks like it's a property, where it's going up, there's a bunch of woods.
12 acres out of 30-something we took out.
Okay. And going back to the driveway,
Yes, sir.
it looks like driveway, talking about the driveway on the right. So see where it goes up, right? That's not a building, is it?
Mr. Miller's on the right-hand side going up?
On the left-hand side, go up the driveway on the left-hand side. Oh, and move the hand over to the right. Okay. See those two boxes? That's not a building that yellow line's going through, is it?
No, that's existing,
That's his
That's the
existing
driveway.
house.
the house is on the left, that's the existing
Turnaround.
pad right in front of his garage.
His garage and turnaround. Well, no garage, it's a turnaround.
Usually when we see a block like this
Yeah,
building,
no, it's
it
just a
wasn't noted.
turnaround.
I-
It was the driveway that was there prior, so that's the shape of the driveway.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, I wasn't sure, because it only shows on the two driveways.
Right.
You know, other people say, there's a lot of ledge and there's a lot of slopes up there. I mean, one of the comments from, the police department, they're concerned with the 8% grade coming off of, the 8% grade causing a runoff onto Frost Road. And I know we didn't talk about site distance, because this is just
So, Mr. Grady's given the
exceptional.
the report's been referenced a couple of times. Would you be kind enough for the record, so that everyone hearing can understand their concerns?
Yeah, and I'll just continue where we're going to. And I was going to say, with all these concerns with everything, I mean, I understand you bought the parcel of land, so parcel of land. Me, I personally, I don't think 8 houses should be on that big piece of land. I think there's a lot of concerns up there. I would maybe say 4. I'm not an engineer, but, just looking at the topography and everything.
It's all about the soils. It's all
Exactly,
about
and
lot
it- this-
sizing and soils. I got the soils and I have the lot
This-
sizing. It goes
Well,
by that,
I'm
right?
I'm just giving my opinion.
Okay.
So, and I've been doing this for a while, and I know, whatever, but I'm just like, there's a lot of wetlands out there, and we've seen other developers come in town, almost same thing, and they scale back their parcels a lot because of it. So, all right, so I'm just going to read this. This is from Captain David. It's dated September 11th. It says, please see the comments from DPD regarding the project. No site distance providing intersection of the new access road and Frost Road. No site distance for the new driveway is concerned with the curve in the roadway. Concerned with 8% grade concerned with the 8% grade causing runoff into Frost Road. No projected structure locations depicted for the plans, from what I can tell. And that was the next question. Like, do you have any idea where you're going to be putting the houses? Because normally, a lot of times when we see a conceptual, or like a design review, they show where the well is, where the septic proposal is, and where the house and the driveway is going to go. I know it's not an official plan, but sometimes we like that also.
To be, for the first floor on the right of the family and children, they're all going to be, they're all pretty much where they all are. So the first one's my son's, the second one's is mine, my daughter's up right next to me, and my other son's right behind her. So those are pretty much where I wanted to put them. The wells were all designed so we could have all the radiuses I needed.
Oh, so you have 4 houses already set?
For my kids and actually 5 with my nephew too. It's a family compound.
So there you go. You build your 5 houses on your family compound, and that's
I got
it.
8 kids though.
And then you put a gate on the thing, and that's your
love
property,
to.
5 houses, and that's it. Make it a private road.
Yeah, but I got 8 total.
8 houses?
8 family members to accommodate.
Okay.
I wanted 9, I got jumped to 8.
Okay. You're in my opinion, but thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions or comments on the board?
Nothing here.
Mr. LaRue?
I just have a clarification and a couple more comments. We did have discussions in our concept meeting, and the only recollection I have is that I encouraged, and I continue to encourage, using the other access port because it's better graded to accommodate an access point, even though it is wet. There isn't a wetland impact on this side as well as that side. Everybody on that and their team has elected to use that other access point. I could be wrong, but I encourage that to be looked at, because what is shown on the plan is very intrusive to the neighborhood and to those 2 existing dwellings that are on each side of that proposed access drive. And to do the slope easements, the town is not in a position to have to take slope easements off of existing properties that's going to possibly extend further. And that's one of my other comments, is that with this plan, because there's been extensive site work done to date that wasn't approved or permitted, we're going to ask for a complete topography of the site for existing conditions, for everything, and anything that's affecting those two homes. And there will be no walls. The town is not in the business of maintaining walls on private property. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I want it on the record so that the applicant understands that what the road costs is what will be escrowed up front. There will be building permits up front. There will be a road constructed and usable to base course pavement to allow for the drainage to work. And then that is the only time you can occupy more homes on that street, because how we set up our permit system, because there has to be a functional road for these people to live on. And I want it known up front that this is how it's going to be.
So, Mr. LaRue, you bring up the leftmost access point, and I think you told us, I don't know, 10 minutes ago that years ago when you were before the town with a previous concept, they discouraged you from using the leftmost one and pushed you to the right one. Do you remember the reasons for that?
There's more wetlands down there crossing, has that, the easement that goes, had a lot of, that's more of the flow of water over there, and it's always really wet over there, and I was pushed, I would have liked to gone, and it was easier to put the road in, it was straight into a cul-de-sac, and then we opted, I was pushed up there to use that road, so I lost a lot, but it actually made out, it looks better in my eyes. And then as far as the retaining walls, they're already designed out of the town's right-of-way, and I have easements for those retaining walls out of the right-of-way of the town.
Do you remember which agency had encouraged you to use the right?
Oh, I don't remember. That was 2 years ago. I just wanted to get this done so I can.
I'm just wondering whether it was a Conservation Commission issue or.
It was just we went in with my engineer, Peter Zodi, way back a couple of years ago. And, I'm sorry. Peter Zodi, he was my engineer before, and we came in a couple of years ago with like a conceptual design. And I don't remember who it was that said it wouldn't be conducive to bring the road in that way with 9 lots. You should go up and try the other access point. So we went up and tried the other access point. And then Peter asked for a slope easement waiver for the road, and they granted a 7% slope easement. And that's where we were. So then we designed the road with that 7% slope easement in mind, and the retaining walls out of the town's right-of-way.
Well, perhaps in the interim, you might go back and reevaluate which access point is more problematic, the one with the slopes challenges or the ones with the water challenges?
Water challenges. That was from Gove environmentalists when they went out and did their flaggings. They said it was more of an impact over there when the right-hand side on 57, 59, it's like a little Vernon pool, he called it. It's under 2,500 square feet. The other pond to the left is standing water, but the one to the right, it dries up. And he's like, we fill a dredge and fill permit for there, and we can go across with that and put a culvert across. They added scoped out for a 16-inch culvert. It's a 12-inch there now. And that's what we were planning to go with.
The applicant continues to say approvals. I don't know what approvals he's speaking to.
We don't have any approvals.
So these are discussions with somebody at some point.
What was it planning back a couple of years ago? George was there. I forget who else was there. They had the secretary. We talked about it with Peter Zodi. I'm sure I can go get the minutes of it if I had to. But that's what I was told to do. So I went with that design.
Ms. Robidoux?
Yeah, I don't recall, but if we had a discussion, I will have notes on it, and I can take a look at that. It sounds like Gove might have pushed for that through discussions with Mr. Zodi because of the impacts to the vernal pool and crossing the drainage easement, but I can look through any notes I may have had at the time on a concept discussion. It would not have been formal, and it would have just been my own hand scratch during a discussion.
Any other comments or suggestions from members of the board with regard to this design review? Do you have any other questions from us that you think we have not addressed for you?
From me, no, I think we're all set right now. I got a good idea where we're going to go with this and what we need to try to address. Thank you.
All right, given that this is a design review and no approvals, no votes are required, then we will declare this section of the meeting closed
Awesome.
and move on to the next item.
All right, so I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Okay, this public hearing is closed.
Only because we had a motion to open it.
Next item on the agenda is FW Holdings LLC, PID 320715 Mount Pleasant Street, acceptance and review of a two-lot subdivision. Ms. Robideau?
Okay, thank you. So the planning board reviewed a similar application for this property in July of '24. The board had concerns with regard to the proposed driveway access and continued the hearing to August so that the board could hold a site walk. At the August hearing, the board discussed the proposed drainage, retention of vegetation, tree buffers, and the site distance. The board denied the application at the time because without granting a waiver for the site distance, the application did not meet all of the requirements of the land development control regulations. The applicant has worked on the site distance issue and has submitted a new plan for the board's review. I would note the applicant does have a variance from the ZBA to allow less than the required frontage and lot width to facilitate construction of a single-family home. The parent lot does have an existing home on it, and TRC review of this application was not required. It would be helpful to, confirm with Mr. LaRue that the proposed site distance is adequate to ensure safety in the neighborhood. They do have one waiver request for site distance. They will need a dairy driveway permit. Additionally, this is not mentioned as a suggested condition, but I would like to recommend that if the board chooses to approve the application this evening, that you add a condition that construction and access easements be added to the plan as necessary for the utilities, which would include water, sewer, and electric. So my recommendation would be just to review and discuss the proposed plan and the waiver request, and if the waiver request is granted, to approve the subdivision.
All right, let's move to, I guess the first thing is to accept jurisdiction.
Mhm.
Can we have a motion for that, please?
Mr. Chair, I move to accept jurisdiction of the two-lot subdivision plan before the board for FW Holdings LLC, PID 32071 5 Mount Pleasant Street.
Second.
Moved by Healy, seconded by Malaby to accept jurisdiction. Poll the board. Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Lavoy?
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Feinauer?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Do we have to vote on
You do.
regional impact? Let's do that.
Mr. Chair, I move pursuant to RSA 36:56, the board finds the proposal as presented at this time meets the definition of a development of regional impact.
Second.
Moved by Healy, seconded by Malaby. I will now poll the board. Mr. Healy?
No, this is a local project. It does not meet the definition.
Mr. Grenice?
No, for the same reasons, Mr. Haley.
Mr. O'Connor?
I'll follow and concur with him.
Ms. Lavoy?
No, for the same reasons.
Mr. Fishman?
No regional impact for the same reasons.
Mr. Feinauer?
No regional impact for the same reasons.
Mr. Malaby?
No, for the same reasons.
And the chair vote no for the same reasons. At this point, can we have a motion to open the public hearing?
Mr. Chair, I move to open the public hearing.
Second.
Is moved by Healy, seconded by Malaby to open the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay. Public hearing is open. I guess I would suggest that since we had seen this plan in another form recently, can you highlight for us what's changed?
Absolutely. Good evening. My name is Matt Peterson with Keach Nordstrom Associates, here representing this proposed revised subdivision application in front of the board tonight.
Matt, could you move the mic a little bit?
Not having
Yeah, there you
Sorry
go.
about that. With me tonight is the owner. Introduce yourself, please, John.
John Fillion.
As the chairman just said, I apologize after the site walk there. I was dropping my last son off at college there for your last planning board meeting, wasn't able to make it. Now I'm an empty nester, so I have much more free time on my hands to get to these meetings. I think all of you are familiar with the site. We all pretty much were on the site walk when we walked it that day. We're located on Mount Pleasant Road. I'm not really going to get into the lot lines and everything like that has not changed. We're proposing the 2 lots. The total lot is 0.793 acres. We're proposing to split it into the 2 lots, with one being 10,319 square feet and the other one being 24,217 feet. If you switch to the topographic plan, this will be the sheet that's changed for you guys. We kind of had discussions at the site walk. I kind of thought this was the way the meeting might go when we came back to the planning board. Apparently, that's not the way it went at that hearing. I'm not sure if it was presented incorrectly as well, but you just have to roll through them there. It's all in the same PDF, sorry. A little easier on this one. No, back up. Yep, right there. So on the previous application, we did not have our driveway access coming out on our own frontage. It was brought up by the abutters at that meeting when I had gone to before the site walk that per the variance, they felt that that should come out on our own property that was there. If you recall from the site walk, there was a utility pole pretty substantial at that point there. We had, again, when I had presented on the site walk and spoke to it, because of the site distance was out there, we thought that it made sense to combine the driveways and do a common driveway. However, I think when Mark was out there, other of us were looking out there, it makes sense to put the driveway where we proposed it here. We have also shown all the utilities now coming out our frontage that is there. So we are going to have to move that pole, obviously. Substantial cost is there, but I think at the end of the day, per the first meetings and the site walks, that makes a lot of sense. The other thing that I wanted to kind of go over with you was the site distance. If you take a look at the next sheet that's down on this here, slide down just one more, there we go. So again, as I've stated from the beginning there, and we had submitted documentation to the board last time, I know a few of you members went and did some research on it. The AASHTO regs have changed. We had made statements that we had met that. We felt that that was safe. However, understanding where the board felt with this here, we have shown on the plan here by moving the driveway to the location of our frontage, working with Mark on having a 3% grade coming up. So kind of right in the middle, you can see the existing grade is the dotted line that comes down. And right in the middle of the profile there, you'll see where our driveway is. We've been able to raise it up because we're going in at 3% to climb to get to back to the 10 feet that's there. So we meet the AASHTO requirements. We do not meet the town requirements still. That's why we're here for the waiver. However, we've got it to about 1.8 feet that we do meet. As I'll go through the arguments for the waiver here, we do believe that this is an existing neighborhood, has existing constraints on the road. I think we all saw out there the grass strip that we were looking at for the site distance not meeting it. If you switch to the Street View 1, I just want to, it was pretty interesting when I pulled this up today. The gentleman that lives next to us is in the white truck, right at the top of the hill. Our vehicle would be right next to that white truck coming out. And literally, as you know, those lots were right next to each other. So it gives a pretty clear shot. I think we all felt when we were standing there, you were able to see a vehicle in the driveway. What you weren't able to see was the ball 10 feet back. But again, as I stated last one, the ball is typically seen at the edge of the travelway. That's why we do that for AASHTO now. But I understand you guys where you're with the regs, and that's why I'm asking for the waiver. But as you can see, we're dealing with an existing street. We're dealing with an existing neighborhood that is being filled in. I think that is very typical in your town and most towns in New Hampshire. An infill is a little bit of give and take, we believe, but obviously not make it unsafe. Again, I've submitted lots of documentation to this board that I believe our driveway location is safe. You have a traffic engineer that has submitted documents to this board that said that location was safe. It's just that we're asking for a waiver from your requirement of having it the 6 feet back. So just to put it on the record here, the waiver is required from section 170-26.d.2. I would say, as we all know, community is a dynamic entity. As it changes over time, growing, evolving, and adapting to meet various needs and goals of the members, the essential character of the area can be altered as well. Regulations are constantly being updated to reflect these changes and implemented the most current evidence-based practices. When a project requests to waive the requirements of this section of the regulations, the existing character of the area, current best practices, and other site factors need to be considered. This will help determine if the waiver request aligns with the spirit and intent of the regulations. The applicant is seeking the above referenced waiver for relief from site distance regulations for the proposed driveway. This section of the regulation requires full site distance to be observed at an object height of 6 inches above the road surface, where a 6-inch object is to be located in the driveway 10 feet back from the edge of pavement. This regulation more closely follows the previous AASHTO guidelines, as I stated at the in previous meetings, which have since been updated. The applicant is unable to meet this requirement, your waiver request. The applicant is, however, able to achieve adequate site distance when following the current AASHTO requirements, as the applicant outlined at previous hearings on the site walk. Mount Pleasant Street generally has a low volume of traffic. Again, I think we saw that, except for that day. It seemed to have a few people that showed up on us there as we were out there. Generally, there are existing driveways on either side of the proposed driveway that would not meet the regulation standard as written. The proposed driveway closely abuts the neighboring driveways. However, many of the existing driveways on Mount Pleasant Street and the surrounding area have limited space between driveways. We had submitted an example to you that I think is all in your package with the waiver request that outlines maps 32, lots 69 and 70, map 32, lots 58 and 59, map 32, lots 90 and 91, that show all that I just outlined to the board. And then lastly, based on the character of the neighborhood with the close driveways and low traffic volume, the age of the existing streets, driveways, and homes, and the most up-to-date evidence-based practice of AASHTO, the proposed driveway location is reasonable and sufficient safe site distance is achievable. Therefore, granting this waiver would not adversely impact public convenience or welfare and aligns with the overall spirit and intent of the regulations. I think that's the main. I think you all know it's a one-lot subdivision. I don't think I need to really go into the plans a lot. The biggest thing we're here for is the waiver request. I think I've been working with Mark over the last few weeks. I assume he'll speak, I hope, tonight on that and see where we go. So I think I'll end it at that point and kind of take any comments or questions you guys have.
All right, so we have a public hearing open. Is there anyone in the audience in the room who would like to make questions, raise comments? Please come to the mic.
Bruce Brown, 6 Hood Road, Derry. I want to thank the board for putting up with us. This is our 13th meeting between zoning and planning over the last 8 years on this lot. And there's a reason for that. We take pride in it being a very historic neighborhood. You've got Hood School, Hood Pond, Hood Road, and in the back of this lot, the owner needs to know that that wall goes back to 1846 with the Hood family. And we hope that it's somewhere in the record the owner has that, because you cannot dismantle that wall. It's protected under the New Hampshire State Legislature. I've got the same problem. If you cross Lenox Road heading north towards Hood School, I've got a part of that same wall that's now collapsing. And I cannot do anything to repair it, touch it, or anything until I get permission from the abutters. That's the rule. And that goes back to like somewhere around 2008 or 2009. And that's courtesy of Mr. Holmes, who was a very good resource. He wrote some books here on the town of Derry, and it was very interesting. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the gentleman who's presenting right now is correct that there was little traffic on the road, but that was in July and August when I was over there. Come on by now that school is opened up. You've got 2 schools right now. And the other thing that it doesn't affect them, but we don't know what's going on with 27 Mount Pleasant Street. We had a very, very bad situation. That's where the house burned, lady was murdered, whatever. You've got another gentleman who's fixing up Judge Pillsbury's old house on Lenox Road, and there's a gap between the house and Grinnell Hill. He wants to put a house in there. So this won't be the last time you see me. Get a good look at my face, because I'll be back. And the problem is you're bringing density into highly density areas. We're medium-high density as it is. But I mean, over on my street, they built Nutfield Heights Senior Citizen Center. And everybody says, well, what's the big deal? Do you know they don't even have to put up stop signs at Nutfield Heights? It's owned by a private entity. So any car coming out of there doesn't even have to stop, technically. So it's nothing personal against the owner. It's nothing personally against the thing. It's just that more and more density is being brought into the older neighborhoods throughout the town. And that's all I would really want to point out to the board, that and the wall at the back. And thank you for all your patience and time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comment on the
As
discussion?
we were out on the sidewalk, obviously stone walls in New Hampshire, we're not allowed to touch and dismantle and stuff like that. So yes, that would have to be maintained as it was there. I can't comment on the 27 Mount or the other elderly that you put in the area. I do believe, though, that one of the things that we had submitted, and I think that was what brought up at the zoning board, was the size of this house, the one car. Again, smaller footprint. We have tried to fit into the neighborhood. We're not coming in with a 4-bedroom house with an ADU and over the garage and stuff like that. So I do believe, and again, we were involved with the variance application, but I do believe we're following what they got the variance for, and I do believe it fits into the neighborhood that's there, Mr. Chairman and board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the room have comments or questions? Mr. Provencher, is there anyone online?
Seeing no rise, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we'll come to the board. Any board comments or questions? Mr. Grenice?
Thank you. I'm thinking, can we do a site walk on this? I'm only kidding. Only kidding. No, I just want, seriously, I want to definitely hear from Mr. LaRue about the site distance. But I also want to thank you for listening to the board, listening to the butters, and everybody at the site walk last time. You know, I really appreciate that. You know, you came back, you listened to us, you put the second driveway in, because we don't want shared driveways and everything. There is a letter, there's an email, I don't know if Ms. Robideau is going to read or something. I just want to make sure that abutters, next door neighbors issues are addressed. But I'm more concerned about Mr. LaRue's comments on the site distance.
We discussed, you know, obviously there were some impediments that really couldn't be fixed on the roadway. I mean, there's a slight hump in the road that really is difficult, and we talked a lot about not doing offsite improvements on somebody's front yard that's only 6 feet from the road. It's not really popular in the neighborhood. So basically just ask Matt, just do the best you can, maximize your slopes, show, you know, be up front, show the board what you can come up with. Have the lot self-supportive regarding utilities, and maximize the view coming down the hill, which is very close to an intersection beyond the 200-foot site distance. So I leave it up to the board. With regard to utilities, I know there was a comment from someone today about concern about them being affected by the utility work. I mean, we would hope that the contractor uses a responsible contractor that's experienced, and there are you know, tight spots there, and it could be ledge, but we always try to do these things carefully so we don't break other utilities, and when we do, we fix them anyway. So it shouldn't have any impact on any of the abutters as far as the utility work. One friendly amendment that Liz will add or has added will be, there may be a need for easement work if you do choose to approve conditionally, just because of the unknown location that the pole would be placed. It does somewhat move it does directly move the placement of water and sewer, which have to be 10 feet apart. So we want to make sure we stay within that newly created lot zone. But in the case where the utility pole was right in front of the bound, there may be some infraction into the other lot, but under his control, he can amend that with an easement to give himself permission to do that. So, as always, Public Works is neutral on the waiver, and we'll leave it to the board. We did the best we could.
Okay. Other comments or questions?
I guess I just have one. What significantly is different from the previous plan on the site distance? I mean, I guess I'm not following that part too much, on what their site distance was at their previous plan to this plan, because it seems like it's improved a little bit, but we still, I don't know if we're at the point where it's improved enough from the
What
prior
I
plan.
can tell you from the previous meeting is that we're more talking about what the site distance would be for the shared driveway, because that's what they submitted for. And they had the stakes set up accordingly. And that wasn't really what we had discussed previously. That came to you as a modification, as a final submittal. So I said you should just bring it back similar to what you brought it before and show exactly what that would be, because there was no exact measurement in the previous meeting that was established, because we were going back and forth on two versions of sharing and not sharing. And we wanted one concise plan to try to consolidate utilities and say this is the best we can do on this property for its access drive.
So back to the engineer, do you have any numbers to give us in terms of?
So let me address that there. So the substantial change from this plan, from the previous plan that you had there, is that, like I've said, you can look at this picture right here. Multiple driveways down this road have the exact same site distance issue. So everybody pretty much meets AASHTO but doesn't meet your town requirements. But the problem with the last application is that we were stuck on the combined driveway at that location, multiple people coming out at that location, not using our own frontage there. So we're very similar to the site distance that we had before, and we gained about, I think, 2 or 3 inches basically from that what was out there. But again, you can see right there, it's fairly the same elevation that we're looking at for that. And then obviously with the driveway being 10 feet closer to down the hill, we have to go further down the hill a little bit. So where we stood that day on the site walk, we'd actually be another 10 feet down the road for this driveway. And that's what the plan that I show you there. So it was a combination of having our own driveway so we didn't have multiple people there. Obviously cleaning out the vegetation that we had there, as there was some shrubs that were in that side there that we would clean out as part of this driveway here. And then meeting again the requirements that I do believe are federal laws right now that are out there that we meet. So that was the changes.
So, okay, that sort of helps. I still would like to actually have, it was only 2 or 3 inches different?
So if you could go back to the profile sheet there, which was sheet 3. Yep. And down a little, yep. So the bottom line that you see on that there is your requirement. And if you notice just to the right of that, that's the hump that we'd have to take out from the abutter, basically the grass lawn that we looked at that day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's closer to meeting it there to take out that hump. It was a little bit more, that hump would have had to come out with the previous application there. But the upper line that shows you the object I had 2 feet in that's very similar to the other one that we said we had site distance at that location based on AASHTO. Both these driveways have AASHTO site distance.
So if I can summarize, you have done the best you can, given the desire not to disturb the neighbor's lawn and the limitation on raising the driveway based on permissible slopes. So given the totality of circumstances in this particular neighborhood, that's the best that can be achieved, practically.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. And also, just so everybody understands, as we saw at the site walk, this isn't a through road that people are doing 45 miles an hour when they hit my 200 feet away. They've literally just made the right or left turn onto the street. They're doing 10 to 15 miles an hour. So in reality, they've got more time to react than what the 200 feet that you're doing on your requirements.
Ms. Robida.
Did you want me to read the concerns from the abutter who couldn't attend tonight?
Yeah, why don't you read that for the record, please?
Okay, thank you. So this is from Jason Duncan, who lives at 3 Mount Pleasant. He wasn't able to attend, and his concerns are as follows. A negative impact on his property and house due to blasting or drilling in the preparation of earth for construction of the building and utilities. He's requesting, if there's any blasting, that there be pre and post inspection of his home and foundation by either Derry or a neutral third party. He's concerned about the negative impact of water and/or sewer tie-ins associated with the construction. Mark had mentioned that earlier, and I believe he addressed that in the potential disruption of service to his property. His last concern was loss of property value due to lack of privacy, as a house would be constructed near his rear property line.
All right, thank you. One last chance. Anyone in the audience have afterthoughts, questions? If not, I will seek a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Grenice, seconded by Mallaby to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Public hearing is closed. So now, on the matter of waivers, what is the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to move the grant waiver LDCR Section 170-26D2, site distance to not meet the requirement of an object height of 6 inches above the road, located 10 feet back in the driveway. After review of the waiver request, the board finds specific circumstances relative to the plan or conditions of the land in such indicate that the waiver will properly carry out the spirit and intent of the regulations.
I'll second it.
So moved by Grenice, seconded by O'Connor. Is there any discussion? Because this is probably the most salient part of the application, I would guess.
I'm just going to say that I think, listen to Mr. LaRue's comments and the applicant and the engineer. I think they took in consideration, moving the driveway. I think, they're getting the best site distance they can for what they have to work with.
Okay. No other comments, I will poll the board. Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Lavoy?
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
No.
Mr. Beinauer?
Yes.
Mr. Mallaby?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So the waiver is adopted. How many we got? You keeping count, Ms. Clerk? Got it. Thank you. Next, on the findings of facts.
The board finds the proposed plan provides safe and efficient vehicle and pedestrian access, and the design and construction of the access way is adequate to accommodate the anticipated volume of traffic proposed by the development. The board finds the proposed parking plan is adequate for the site and meets the parking density requirements for the use as noted by the waiver approved this evening.
Second.
That's weird.
Moved by O'Connor, seconded by Mallaby. Any discussion? Not. I will poll the board. Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Lavoy?
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
No.
Mr. Feinauer?
Yes.
Mr. Mallaby?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. You get all that? Yep. On the matter of approval.
Okay, after review, Mr. Chairman, and deliberation of the two-lot subdivision plan, application for PID 32071, 5 Mount Pleasant Street for FW Holdings LLC, the board finds the applicant has satisfied the general requirements of the Land Development Control Regulations, or in cases where the regulation cannot be met, has satisfied the waiver requirements. Therefore, the motion is to approve pursuant to RSA 676:4, Roman numeral 1. Completed application with the following conditions. Subject to the owner's signature. Subject to on-site inspection by the town engineer. Establish escrow for the setting of the bounds or certify the bounds have been set. Establish appropriate escrow as required to complete the project. Note approved waiver on the plan. Obtain written approval from the planning director/designee that the GIS disk is received and operable and complies with LDCR Section 170-24.c. Remove the TRC signature block from the plan set. Correct the misspelling on note number 10. Subject to the receipt of applicable state and local permits relating to the project town of the Derry driveway permit. Conditions precedent shall be met with 6 months. Submission of the appropriate recording fees payable to the Rockingham County Register of Deeds. This includes the $25 L-chip fee, recording fees for the Mylar, and the notice of decision.
And negotiation of any utility easements that may be required.
Perfect, yep.
So it's all set?
Yep, he added it.
Okay, moved by
Chair,
O'Connor?
I just have a quick question before we vote on this. I went back and I'm looking at Mr. Duncan's email here, and it seems like we kind of glanced over it. So I'd like to ask a question. Thanks to Mr. Connor tonight, we got educated on dynamiting. Didn't realize that, but I'm assuming with what Mr. LaRue said, there's going to be 2 trenches 10 feet apart that run to this new establishment, and there is a potential for dynamiting up there if it's required.
We don't allow using blasting near
In that neighborhood?
utilities.
Okay, all right. I just had a question on wells.
20
but-
feet is a minimum, or yeah, as close you want to be to blasting any utilities.
All right, no further
Everybody
questions.
uses a hammer today.
All right, thank you.
Okay, who was going to second?
Second.
So moved by, All
Mr.
right.
O'Connor, yep.
who moved it?
Mr. O'Connor?
Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
seconded by Malaby. Any further discussion? Not, I'll poll the board. Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Lavoy?
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
No, for the reasons that I don't agree with the waiver or the findings of fact.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Feinauer?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
very much.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Matthew.
Okay. Now, if I can find my agenda, I'll tell you what's next.
Workshop.
Workshop.
Okay, next item on the agenda is a planning board workshop. We're going to be talking about planning board goals, and probably even more important, legislative changes, which may prompt the need for some zoning amendments to keep up and comply with state law. And I would ask Ms. Robidoux to review that. We have some information in our package as to what those issues are.
Okay, all right, thank you. So there were several changes to the RSA's governing land use applications and review criteria. You have a summary in your packet of the most recent changes. Some are already in effect and will supersede our zoning ordinance or our land development control regulations. And recommend that the board review the attached correspondence from BEA, and perhaps maybe we could prioritize some of those amendments. I can go through them very quickly this evening. If the board would like to move forward with amendments, once the priority list is created, planning staff can create a draft document for you to review during a workshop. One of the goals of the master plan is to review the zoning along the Exit 4A corridor, known as the Gateway District. This is a recommended priority from staff. Rezoning in this area in advance of construction will enhance economic development and redevelopment opportunities in this area. The board is also asked to consider proposed changes to definitions regarding Asian bodywork and to review zones where that use might be allowed. The state has set that particular type of use separate from traditional massage therapists. So we may want to just look at that. For the legislative update, SB 437 changed local amendments and regulations relating to the state building code and how we can adopt those. For that one, we will need to send our a section of our zoning ordinance to the State Building Code Review Board and have them review how we have changed our listing of the IBC in the state building codes since 2015.
So, Ms. Rue, isn't this something that the town council handles? Building codes?
It's in our zoning ordinance. So we note in the zoning ordinance under section 16522, the specific addition, we actually state in there that we will follow the most recent approved additions that the state has approved of the IBC, the building code, the life safety, and the NFPA. What this change has done in the legislature, it has said we can no longer say We're going to go from 2018 state building code to 2022, just a wholesale. We have to, my understanding is we have to take a look at all the different amendments that they looked at.
But you can only put one
This-
amendment at a time.
Yes,
Board. which is-
yes, and any change that we suggest needs to be reviewed by the State Building Code Bureau.
So does the state still adopt new codes wholesale?
Perhaps.
The legislative body does.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
at the state level.
At the
building
state
code.
level, I believe that they do.
Right.
The state
Yeah.
gets to do that and the municipalities don't.
That is correct.
Oh, that is fun.
See
It-
more- you can
It's,
see more of
it's
that coming.
extremely fun, and can't wait to delve into this.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I ask a
So-
question before she goes on further?
Please.
Can we go back to exit 4A?
Of course,
Now, there's already a committee that's just been established. And it's the Gateway TIF District Implementation Plan, and we got the advisory board, because I happen to be on that. So are we going to be in conflict of what this board's doing and what the Gateway board's going to be doing?
I don't believe so, because I think that, the TIF Advisory Board it's not, I don't believe that that board's charge is to suggest uses that should be allowed in the TIF district, where this board would take a look at what the land is going to look like once the construction is finished, and to see what might be the best and highest uses for redevelopment in that area. So I don't believe so.
I put a call out to the chairman, so he hasn't been able to get back to me yet.
Okay.
Let's go on to this one here. But
Okay.
there it can be some conflict.
And-
They were
and-
looking at different zoning for particular areas.
So
especially in the
I'm on the other advisory board for the Commercial Commerce Corridor TIF Advisory
Oh, yeah,
Board.
you on that one?
Yeah, I'm on that one. And my understanding is that we're looking at schedules and budgeting and finances and roadblocks and whatnot. There was no discussion at our group about zoning changes. So I think Ms. Robert is right, is that the zoning use changes should come from the planning board and should be consistent with the master plan. And so I don't think there's really any significant overlap between those two. But I think we had a committee at one point, and I think Mr. McEachran was the chair, but he's kind of now
Now the
off
chair
doing a
is.
lot of other stuff. So maybe we need to reconstitute that committee.
Okay, yep.
And one more question on the upper area. In the town code, massages, masseuse, they're all in there, even the Asian bodywork. Is this something specific that's different?
In our code, currently, Asian bodywork is part of that. Since we established our town ordinance, the state has has created a separate definition for Asian body work. And they have their own set of requirements under the OPLC. And it might be prudent for us to look at that as a separate use. Okay. All right, so continuing on to more fun stuff. State driveway permits, there is not a lot that we need to do with that particular change, other than as we're going through our conditions of approval to just keep an eye on those dates. The state is now required within 60 days of application for a driveway permit on a driveway under state jurisdiction to approve it or deny it. If 60 days has passed and they have not, it's automatically approved.
Need some things up.
Yes, it will. HB 1359 redefines the definition of abutters. So I've already started working on, a change to our definition so that we can coincide with the new state definition. Basically, what it says, it clarifies when you have a street or stream where that line is. We've been following what the state has proposed now. So if you've got a lot that where you have like two lines and there's, I don't know how to describe it without drawing it. We've been following what the state has been defining, but we can actually capture that in our definition. The other change is that no longer will it be people aggrieved by a decision of the Zoning Board of Adjustment. It is abutters. So we'll need to change that language in our zoning ordinance. Currently, anyone who doesn't like a decision of the planning board, the zoning board, or a building official can file an appeal with the Zoning Board of Adjustment. And the state has now said that it is an abutter who can appeal, or someone who has been part of the application, or obviously town officials. So moving on from that one. Things that would affect us, we should take a look at our manufactured housing section, just to make sure that we're providing reasonable opportunity for expansion in our existing mobile home parks. One of the biggest ones is under HB 1400. There is new provisions for parking requirements. So we will need to take a hard look at our parking regulations. Moving forward, if you have a studio apartment or a one-bedroom apartment under 1,000 square feet, we need to make sure that we are not requiring more than 1.5 residential spaces per unit. And anything in a multifamily development over 10 units, the new parking calculation will need to be 1.5 per unit. So I've started going through the regulations to see where we may need to make changes on that. So they're trying to, in our regulations, some of them we have it's 1.5 with a minimum of 2 or a minimum of 3 per unit. So if you have it's late and I don't want to do math, but if you have more than 4 units in a building, our 1.5 per bedroom or 1.5 per unit works and kind of aligns with the state. But in the smaller ones, we're requiring a lot of parking for just a couple of units. And this is the state's way of regulating parking.
Well, it's also the way of reducing development costs.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So I couldn't help but notice that all of the effectivity dates are in the past.
They are.
So, and it takes us a while to draft and do workshops and make sure we get language that we all like and doesn't have, side effects. So I'm going to suggest that we do that with as much expediency as we can reasonably muster.
Okay.
But I'm going to suggest that in the interim, if we come up with a plan where the town regs as written and have not yet been amended are contrary to state law that we use, it's against state law as a reason to grant a waiver. Does that seem like a reasonable way to take some of the time pressure off us?
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Okay.
Are there any of these, and one of the other things that we may want to look at too is just kind of taking a look at our underground utility regulations, and just maybe take a peek at that, where we're running into these conflicts with Eversource, and see if, and maybe it's just a broad discussion with the board to see if we want to look at, for the infill developments, maybe, going with what best suits the site so that we're lessening the waiver requests that need to come before the board, and that it's something we could look at. I don't know that it needs to be as high priority as some of these legislative changes, but it definitely should be looked at because we're seeing a lot of waivers.
So I guess my personal view is that the highest priority would be the Exit 4A corridor, because that's an event that's coming upon us quickly, and we can't change zoning after the fact. So that's not something that's, I want to say, an editorial exercise. I think most of these are scrubbing the regs, finding out, we say this, state says that, change it to match the state. Doesn't require a lot of back and forth, because the state, when the state says something, we have to do it.
We do.
I mean, that's kind of the bottom line. But with respect to the exit 4A zone, that takes some creative thinking. And maybe there was a bunch with the older committee, but we may have lost a lot of that institutional history. So I would personally prioritize that one.
Okay.
I don't know how other people feel.
All right. And do you want to form a subcommittee for that? Or
Yeah, it's
Okay.
actually a committee, because we're a board,
Okay.
and therefore we create committees.
Okay.
We don't create subcommittees. But yes,
Okay.
so we should try to maybe get some volunteers to be on that committee this evening.
We'll be part of it anyway, not following it with the legislators, because of the lawsuits that's taking place right now. They're being sued by the White Path people.
Is that directly related to uses?
Not the users, no. It'll affect the distance on when they're going to be able to build. Hopefully,
Okay.
their lawyers will.
So who has some interest and passion in coming up with a plan that will maximize community benefit from that development area?
no one wants to work with me. I'm so disappointed.
When,
That is indeed my passion.
yeah, what would, when would the meetings be and all that?
Well, that's up to the group to decide.
How many people are we looking from the board to be on the committee?
I would say 3, so you have an odd number.
I'll volunteer.
All right, so Mr. Healy will volunteer. Is anyone else? Mr. Malaby? And Mr. Fishman.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, I will reach out to you all via email to see if we can come up with a, time that works to get the initial meeting.
As chair, I would encourage you to communicate back freely, maybe
Yes.
even report every meeting, as opposed to go and create a very complicated, fully polished plan that you deliver to us and we say, what?
Okay, sounds good.
Just good management suggestion there.
Okay.
Does anyone else have a different high priority that they would like to also put forward?
We're going to deal with the abutters? The rules on the,
Oh, I'll take care of, for all the legislative ones, I'll draft changes for you. I'll get those back to the board.
so some of the abutters we used to have, we're no longer going to have. Huge change.
And we also talked about board goals. And I think that working down this laundry list of things we have to do in a fairly short order is probably enough to put on our plate for right now.
Okay.
I'd like to see us finish these items and then adopt some other work items and other goals. Does anyone have another idea, goal, project that's hot and burning and you would like to see added to the initial list of activities? Okay. Hearing none, then I guess we have our marching orders.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Now, is there any other business to come before the board? Member comments, for example? Anyone have planning board member comments? Mr. Grease, you don't have any events coming up?
I will not be at the next meeting.
Oh, okay.
I will be in
That's an
Florida,
event.
Oh, nice.
You want to help
on the good side.
All right. Hearing none, then shall we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned.